Chickity check. Dawes effects. They want effects.
Dawes effects. Rickety wreck yourself.
Before you chickity check yourself.
No. Chickity check yourself.
Before you wreck yourself. Big D's in your mouth is bad for your health.
That was not part of it. That was an Ice Cube version.
But wasn't that,
Ben, would you tell this guy?
That was the clean version.
That was the,
Was
yeah.
it?
The Ice Cube version.
Right.
Yeah, with DOS effects.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know what I'm talking about.
I mean, you wouldn't hear that song now. That's
I mean, I don't know.
The real reason why I wouldn't hear that song now is because I wouldn't want to listen to that song at this point in my life.
I thought he just blessed the mic.
I see. There. Damn. This is why.
Okay, I take it back.
This is why they don't make you in charge of anything anymore.
I'm going back to the closet. Anna, would you like to, co-host the show?
Yeah. Can we? Are the mics hot enough? Do we want to get a little hotter on the mic?
I think we're good. I'm not.
Meryl Darrell.
She says, "Bring Ben up closer towards me." Okay, so just slide in.
Okay.
There you go.
There you go. There you go.
If I'm closer to the camera, though, I look much bigger than I do in real life.
Well,
That's a proportion thing.
Don't let him fool you. Ben is very.
That's
very,
something Ego would
tall.
hurry up and say,
Yeah,
right? It
yeah.
just took the mic and said, "This is what we have to say, Ben."
Yeah, we have to compensate for ourselves. So, man, now make up an excuse, damn it. Just whatever it is, make it sound good.
And don't let it be nothing.
Yeah, I want to believe this with you. I want you to believe this with me. Again, this is your ego talking.
You need to sell it to us, Ben.
So the ego?
Yeah.
Yeah,
That
yeah.
sounds like devil stuff. I don't know.
Sir, can I offer you an ego today, sir? As
That's
if yours isn't enough.
Mine likes to just traipse on everyone's ideas.
Yes, I am not driving my vessel anymore, sir. My ego takes over.
How did Lamont get so good on the synthesizer? It's all the, selling yourself for the...
Yeah.
That's why you can't totally detach yourself from the ego.
Yeah.
Because of the devil?
No, because of the synthesizers.
Oh, gotcha.
God damn
Yeah.
it. Are you staying with me?
I'm trying.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, the microphone's good.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you remember that Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas?
Yes.
Yeah.
I can't get my footing in this muck.
Bring Ben's mic up is what the editor is saying.
Oh, he is on a split mic with me, and we are maxed. So what I can do is share this one if that one's not cutting it.
I can also shout if you want.
Yeah.
Yeah, Ben normally operates in a lower resonance.
I'm trying to keep it like Guru.
Why don't you just cram that thing down your throat? Let's see what we get.
What kind of video is this?
It's late night.
It's
with
a
the
late
twins.
night.
that's
Yes.
true.
So take everything that you know about us to be these positive people and join us on this late night extravaganza of pornography.
As Ben
may
tries
not
to
see
take a
it.
microphone.
Right. Ben's going to paint you a pretty
Wait a
picture with
second.
his
Is this-
fabulous words.
Is this OnlyFans?
Yeah. Yeah. Last I checked, this should not be OnlyFans.
Okay, good. Good.
Welcome back to the live show.
Are you trying to salvage what we just did?
I am
Yeah,
trying
yeah.
to segue us out of
Yeah.
this.
We
Damn
got to
it.
start over.
Allow us to start over live, please.
I do not want to paint us in this light. I am sorry, people, but they have just pushed it all against me, and I fought like hell to get myself out of this corner.
You're a man of dignity.
Yeah, he is.
Yeah.
Until he's weak.
Well, what the hell is that supposed to mean?
It just sounded good coming out of my mouth, whether it's true or not. It just felt like it needed to be. It had to have been said.
Yeah, it is. The fuck? You see what I got to deal with?
I
This
do.
is the problem of having a replica of you, Ben.
Yeah.
You have to sit and you have to watch.
I just have doppelgangers. I don't have the actual twin. I just
Yeah.
have people that look kind of like me, like
but you don't-
off-brand.
But you don't have to interact with that.
I don't.
Yeah.
I don't make eye contact when I see a doppelganger.
No.
I run.
Marilyn says, surprise live where anything happens. And that is a true
That's a very true
factual
statement.
statement.
Very true.
That's the exciting thing about live
Yeah.
is you can't go back
No.
and you can't erase anything.
Yeah.
Like I can't go back 3 minutes from now and salvage anything. It's just,
It sucks.
it's
Does it?
It's great. It's great because you get to see a real honest moment.
Right.
And you get to see the formation of something beautiful. And you get to see how, just like the universe was cobbled together out of an array of material, atoms and et cetera, and we all came from stars. And we became this. But initially, it sounded a lot like this. Whatever was happening 3 minutes ago, it sounded a lot like the Big Bang sounded a lot like what we were doing.
Yeah.
And now that it's coming together, the accretion of celestial bodies, we are now online.
Yeah.
So
I remember when we were trying to plan our whole, itinerary of getting together, and I think I left you a text.
yeah, you swiped left. I'm kidding.
I don't think he understood that one, number one. I think that went over his head.
Okay.
The emptiness that came out of his
Right.
eyes, Anna and I saw it clearly. It happened in a matter of
I
seconds.
saw the vacuum of space.
Yes.
Wait,
Yeah.
Lamar, could you explain this?
The deep void that he just secreted from his skins with all the sebum and sebaceous fluid
Clearly,
that would
he's
accumulate.
not going to explain it either.
Online dating. Online dating.
Online dating.
Right, you swipe left or I don't know. You swipe left or
Swipe
right.
right.
That's all I know.
Okay.
Swipe left,
I
swipe
have no idea. Even though I met my wife online, I still don't know what that means.
Yeah. Well, we're learning something new today.
We are.
Yeah.
Yeah. Today is Reading Rainbow for Lamont.
Right.
Yeah.
And the audience, if they don't know.
Right.
Yeah.
Here's
Wait, what was the point I was trying to make?
I
man?
have no idea. Sometimes you don't even know the point you're trying to make.
So where I was going with this was I text you. Let's not worry about trying to figure out how this is going to work. We're already in each other's orbit,
Right.
meaning the deal is done. It's only a matter of time before whatever actions take place after. You know what I
The
mean?
butterfly effect.
Is it though?
I don't know. I saw butterflies before I came here.
Okay.
Are you serious about that?
No, I'm not.
Wait.
Well, damn it,
Wait.
man. I don't know what's
Wait.
true and what's real
Ben,
anymore.
I don't know why.
This is such an
this
emotional
popped
roller
in my
coaster for
head.
me right now.
I don't know why this popped in my head. But as soon as he said that, my most favorite Jim Carrey movie popped into my mind.
Oh, I know what this is.
You know what this is?
Please
Eternal
make it a good
Sunshine
one.
of the Spotless Mind.
That's a good one. Yeah. Right. Well, how does that figure into what we're talking about?
I don't know, but normally,
I don't either.
Normally when things have been said and I immediately get an image
Right.
from whatever I got from that, I just like it to be out there in case it hits somebody in some weird way, like, oh shit, I was just kind of thinking that, or I had that feeling. Because if it goes unsaid,
Yeah.
how do you know?
Right.
I've had plenty of situations where I was thinking something and someone said it. And I was like, what if I would have just said it versus thinking like, because now if I tell this person, I was just going to say the same thing. Are they going to believe me?
Maybe it depends on the person, but what you're describing is the synchronicity I see with people, right? You get into like an energy field and your words come through someone else. And it's magic. We would do that in meditation. We would hold a space and then people would communicate. And I would stop talking for a moment, if you can imagine such a thing. And then the words I was going to say anyways would come through someone else within that space. And if it was brilliant, I would say, I was going to say that just a moment ago, but you said it
Right.
for me. So
Yeah,
Thank
that's
you.
happened more times than not.
If I'm surrounded by a bunch of people like myself and a bunch of Ben and Annas,
sure.
then I can see that me saying that holding some value or some weight. But then I also go, but they would expect that, you know? They would
You were
expect
quoting
that.
Alan Watts tonight,
Right.
but it wasn't something you watched.
Right. Listen to me. I have watched some Alan Watt. I'm a big fan, but I've never heard him say anything remotely like that. And there's a lot of videos that I have not seen of
Yeah.
his. But hold on, wait a minute. When your mentor tells you that he's learning something from you, you should stand up and just take a bow. Not a bowel movement. but a bow.
After the bowel movement.
Yeah, and humbly accept that. A part of me didn't want to accept that.
Well, I think we choose to have a guru or voice outside of ourselves because we want to hear it. It's coming through us, but we don't actually have the confidence, the feeling that it can come through us. We choose to have an external voice, and then we spend time with that external voice until it becomes our voice. But the people you vibe with, like, why would people listen to Alan Watts? Why would they listen to Eckhart Tolle or Tolle, Muji or anyone else along those lines? They're vibing with them. Their words start to become their words. They're gaining the pathways. They're becoming.
Do you think these are lost words? Like when I first stumbled upon like Alan, and I vibe with him so well, I kind of like to think that I was already in his spectrum, right? But when I was introduced to him or when I stumbled upon him, the way he spoke, everything he was saying, keywords may have been the key phrases like the universe or give up control. You just start to listen to that person.
I don't think they're lost words. I think they're like forbidden words.
But hear me out. Is it something that's forgotten within us that those words vibe with us? You know what I mean? Like what?
It's the one truth, and then we tap into it.
Yeah. Take the mic.
I think it's the one truth, and then it's in that collective, and we are always tapping into it.
So, in essence, we all have this within us, right? Like we all have this forgotten truth.
Yeah.
So, how do you think one gets there?
To remember.
Someone of not our plane or our level of enlightenment, because there's different levels. How does someone like that who's watching right now go, well, how do I get that? Like, how do I get there? What do you think? How do you open yourself up to that, to remember?
I think if somebody's watching this, they're already
But not
awake.
necessarily, because somebody could have just stumbled upon, like, well, what are these people about? You know?
I think we spark each other. I think that's the service that we offer one another. That's deeply important. But, the movie you're talking about, that really sparked me when I watched it at that time. I think we remember and awaken through music, through anything, any breadcrumbs we leave one another.
Yeah, there's a remarkable amount of wisdom in popular culture if you are looking for those breadcrumbs. And there's different levels of consciousness or different levels of awakening, you could say, but on a more profound level, we're already there. We're there and we're not there. It's I think why we can tap into these transcendent states. We may not know how to get back there and sustain it, and that might be the differentiation point as to whether or not we remain in those high consciousness states or high vibration states. But it's like we're always on the precipice of that, or it's always there. It's always accessible, and then we have these experiences that remind us, like in popular culture, and they point back to something that's always there, something that does resonate. We do vibe with, it says a word and it's like almost like an activation, like Manchurian Candidate or something.
Right.
It's like something that clicks in. We go, oh yeah, that's right. I forgot that I was like only playing at a game, and that I'm, one with this creative force within the entire universe, and that creative force is me, and that I have this powerful potential which created the entire universe. But I forgot, and then I took this job, and I played small. And as I let go of that, I'm tapping back into that creative potential that I've always carried, but haven't always utilized to create the dream that I'm creating right now.
But some people are not looking for breadcrumbs, and the crumbs seem to find them unknowingly. Is that the universe just saying, hey, wake up? Like, how do we explain that?
I mean, how could it be an accident, though? I mean, what you experienced, you could say was an accident, but you were primed for it. You've come and you're living your life based upon these principles, and you hunger for it and you want more of it. I don't see how it can be an accident that you manifest or you attract experiences that are perfectly directed for your soul path or whatever path you're following right now. We were talking about this earlier, but we were all in agreement that there are no coincidences. And we were talking about like magnetism and how we're like, on a high, you could say fifth dimensional consciousness or beyond, but that's just an arbitrary term. You're drawing like a vacuum. You're drawing in like a vortex. Your experiences. You reached out to us, right? And we've been to your home now twice. This is not normal behavior for us.
In a month.
In a month.
In a month.
Right. I mean, you moved maybe less than 100 yards, to move around within your space to connect with us. We came to you because you guys created this magnetic field. It's kind of like Field of Dreams. If you build it, they will come.
Mm-hmm.
You built a studio. You said the words last time, like, if the room is empty and you're in it, just wait for them to fill. That's what you did. You guys have created the space. You guys are putting things out. You guys are doing it with this relentless spirit. And then the space is getting filled. And I would have to imagine it's the same way with the spiritual experience. Like, there is something that you're magnetizing, something that you're creating that is drawing you to have this experience to go, oh, shit, I forgot how powerful I am and how beautiful I am. And oh, by the way, how everyone is that.
Mm-hmm.
And now I have to walk in the world and commit to that and communicate that because I can't go back to where I was before. I'm like Alice in Wonderland's taking the mushrooms. I can't go back in that room. I can't live the life I thought I could live before. I was living before.
Right. And this is where I want people to know that are probably. So Ben has been on the podcast, and that's probably where you remember his face, but he's brought his lovely wife, Anna, with him this time. And now she's sharing the same space with us all. And it's like this complete circle. And so now I really want the viewers to just like see the totality of like this kinship, this union. And we've just literally formed this union. This is nothing that has been like it's all been by chance. It's all been by synchronistic moments. And what you're witnessing now is just the great coming together for us. And so we're going to incorporate, music and poetry and give insight and try best to lead by example. And we really want people to like view this and just be a part of it. And just, if you're of a like mind, this is a place where you can come to get some of those answers or some of that fulfillment or some of those fears or doubts, and wash it all away with us, like right now.
And the biggest thing is, too, we said it off air, is my brother and I we're not these poetic scholars who can put into words on how we want people to be with their lives and how our expression is, it's just a positive thing. And there's no interpreter for the music that we put out, period. Until we found this guy and this woman here who has answered a lot of questions about what we've been going through with ear-ringing events and understanding life after death situations, and expressing that we're not the only ones out there. It's a difficult thing to let people who think like you go when you know how rare the occasions are when you meet these people and the insight you get from these people and what they hear from us musically or vocally. It draws them into us. And when Ben said that, it's like, I keep resorting back to the same question: is did I create this or did you create this? I don't know what started the infinity sign. Did it start? And is there truly a sign to represent it? So in many ways, when anything is created, it's like that. It's who's creating it? Is it the attention of what you're looking for? Is that the creation? Is it the beginnings of the communicating with someone, something? It's I'm still lost for words as to how all this even became. Like, this should not be. This is so surreal right now, how this was all created. and how you guys are sitting here right now, how he's here not doing law enforcement anymore, how my wife and I moved to Indiana and I'm not doing the farrier thing, and we're just risking all of this. And the four of us at adult ages are just risking it all, and it's just like it's all on the line. And we don't even know for what. And I think that's the coolest thing is we have an idea, but we don't know what is set for us.
Yeah, we're just following the energy, though.
We're just
Right.
following the energy.
Yeah.
And it feels amazing, but it is one of the most scariest
I was
going to
say, how terrifying is it, and how vulnerable do you have to be to surrender to like your dreams, like the gonads it takes, you know, the strength it takes to not take in the outside judgment, to not fall into the traps of your own self-ego saying you're not worth it, or maybe this is not going to work out. You have so much riding against you when you take these blind leaps of faith, you know?
But you become like vanguards or trailblazers, right? And it's not to pat yourself on the back, but the model that we're stepping into right now, I believe, is going to be a model that many people step into, and many people step into very, very soon. But when I was in practice, I would see birds in the back of our office, right? And we would put bird seed out, and there was a certain type of bird, like a starling, and one or two birds would land. And once one or two of those birds would land, the other birds saw that it was safe. And so when you're finding food and you're finding life in a way that people around you haven't done, you know, and people told you couldn't be, and then you're eating there and you're thriving there and you're showing people that it's safe and that you're happy and you're living a life that everyone's always known was possible, but they didn't know how to get there. What's breaking free right now is the model of I have to sell my life for money, or I have to sell myself short for money. Where if I just use the metaphor for a moment, we're out on a lake and we want to make it across to the other shore, right? Am I going to go with the wind or against the wind? I'm going to go with the wind. And that means I'm going to take the inspiration in the wind behind my sails and I'm going to follow it. I mean, for much of my life, just like you guys, for much of my life, I tried to will my way. I tried to force my way. I tried to go against the wind. I tried to follow what everyone else was doing who was miserable around me. And now I get to follow my yen, my excitement, my joy. And I get to be weird with other people that also want to do that. You know, in the middle of our life, if you want to, you know, say after the age of 40.
It's beyond a midlife crisis.
Right. It's not a midlife crisis. It's existential. It's this soul yearning we have to, you know, take play into life and not to live this shut down existence we've been living. But it seems a little crazy until you multiply your number from 2 to 4. And when you multiply your number from 2 to 4 to 8 to 16 to 32 to 64 to 128 and on, it's not so crazy. It's only crazy because you don't see a lot of other people doing it. But then you walk into the crazy world where people are walking slumped down and sad. And you watch them trying to feed themselves in ways that they can't. The next Netflix show or the next, you know, Happy Meal or whatever it is. And you say, I've lived that. And I've tried to feed from those places too, and I have compassion. But I found what I'm looking for inside myself and inside people that see it within themselves. And they don't need me, but they love me. And they want to be with me. And they want to walk with me. And they want to vibe with me. It's funny because we know it as kids. We walk on the playground and any child that's playing, they're one of us. And then one day we put on suits and we forget. And that's what this is. This is us taking off our suits. Giving ourselves freedom. And when you do, your heart swells. And when you do, you just walk with waves flowing through your body like the ocean. And when you do, you find yourself finally breathing for the first time in your entire life. And you find that your shoulders actually live a lot lower than your ears. And you find that you sleep at night because you're not trying to live a dozen other lives. And that all the friends you thought you lost are here. And now they want to play. You had to put down your seeking. You had to put down your hunger. And you had to find. And when you found, you were fed. You were nourished. You were comforted. And not something transient, but something that is you. It walks with you. It breathes with you. And it lives with you. It is you. And it's you in all the bodies that you walk past every day. And it's you in the sun that rises and the sun that falls. It's you in every glimmering star. And it's you in every passing breeze.
I mean, I'm really feeling this vibe right now. You see how we just let him go and just kick that shit right in? This is the example. This is the example we're talking about. Now you have an idea what's going on in our minds. Well said, Benjamin. Well said, sir. better about himself. And this is Anna. This is our Ben's our guru, but Anna's our oracle. She's our she keeps the stillness in a weatherless lake, in the windless lake. How's that? I like that.
Yeah, that's good.
And that's what you represent to us. You're the stillness. You're the calm before the storm. Everything's going to be okay. I ask that a lot about myself, and I still don't know what part of me that needs that reassurance. But I constantly ask that of myself at night before I go to sleep. I ask it of my spirit guide or whoever's in the ether that's listening. I always ask, is everything going to be okay?
Yeah.
Not with just me, but with everybody. Are we going to be okay? And that is just a general thing. No rhyme and no reason.
I think that's a very human question, isn't it?
Yep.
Because we know on our fundamental level, fundamental basis, it has to be. On a soul level, nothing is broken. But we ask that for our kids. We ask that for the world that we feel attachment to, and for all the people that we care for in the world. I feel like that has to be part of our programming in a sense. Maybe it's something we transcend, but it also creates this drive to build a community and to care for one another. So there's like purpose there too. We still ask the question. We still direct our lives on that principle. And yet the one that asks that question is never assuaged and is never fully, clarified, mollified, at peace. It's got to keep asking that question over and over again.
I really feel like that question in the physical sense, it just can't be cut and dry. I feel like it just can't be, yes, everything is going to be okay. I still feel like the dualities, the polarities.
Yeah.
It's your perception if everything's going to be okay. To the universe, you spilled a glass of milk, beautiful on you.
Yeah.
You know what that feels like. To me, my perception, oh fuck, I spilled a glass of milk. But the universe is saying every little thing, and I know this of me, and I know it to be true like the air I breathe. It's going to be okay. But it's a full circle. It's the serpent eating its tail.
Yeah, the Ouroboros.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I will still ask it, even given the clearest answer.
Yeah.
But falling back into my human self, I always ask you, am I going to be okay?
Lamont and I were talking at dinner, and we were talking about how you've always been with yourself. Your whole journey, you've been with yourself. And it's this part of you that loves you unconditionally. It's this part of you that's always been watching you, the observer self. And so, like, our journey over the last couple of years has been to re-parent ourselves, to always be there and build that trust that in that little one inside. Build that trust that I'm always here.
Yeah.
I've always been here, and I've always been loving myself. And no matter what I've done, there isn't anything I can't forgive inside of myself, because I've always been there loving myself in that moment. And that's how I've found reassurance inside for that little one. And it's not, things come up that I still need to reassure myself around, but it's knowing that I'm there. I'm there in the same moment I'm asking that question.
Yeah. I sense that too when I'm asking the question. I'm always in that. I'm there. I'm in that moment, and I'm asking this question, and I'm answering it as I'm asking. But a part of my human ways just go, it's too good to be true. It can't be that easy. We will not accept this as an answer.
But that's the true essence of duality.
Yeah.
Is when you ask and you already have the answer.
Right.
Both
right.
yes and
And
no.
no. Yeah. 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 What would be the point, right? I accept that too. I just don't know why I feel so deeply rooted and compelled just to have this concern. Not just for me, like I said, but for everybody. Like I have this driven concern. Like, are we gonna be okay? But are we? You know, look at human society. Look at our civilization.
Yeah.
Look at what we do to each other. We torment, we kill each other, we judge, we degrade, we love, we hate, we put down, we rejoice, we smile, we laugh, we cry. Are we really okay with this? Like,
Yeah, we were talking about this earlier because even when there's been a world war on the planet, not everybody was living that reality.
that's true.
And so I think when you're creating a life for yourself where you're surrounded by love and community and support, then that's the world you live in.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
You had mentioned tonight about how, you know, with your kiddos, if there's a lesson that they're learning, you're not yelling at them. You're not doling out corporal punishment, or, you know, you're leading with, what lesson did you learn? Okay, cool. And you had mentioned them asking, were you not going to yell? I think that's where it begins to end for us. That's the beginning of the end as to whether it's going to be okay. I had a moment about maybe a month and a half, 2 months ago, and I had kind of an aspect of that anger, that rage that I was showing you before. Not like what I experienced a couple of years ago, but it was coming online. And I told Anna that day, I said, I don't know if I trust myself. I don't know if I trust myself, because I felt like the emotions and the energy was so great that it was going to override my connection, my watcher, my sense of presence. And I sat with myself that day, had a lot of energy, a lot of emotion come up. And after working through that over the course of the day, I had something else happen the next day that would have triggered a response. Instead, I had the watching presence, the compassion inside me, the one that says, no, I got this. I got this. I can feel you're angry, but I love you. I'm with you. I'm not going anywhere. I'm with you right now. Can you feel that? That part of me was angry. It's like, yeah, I can feel that. Can you let go? Yeah, I can let go. Can you experience the love and forgiveness right now? Yeah, I can experience love and forgiveness. And I felt this wash of energy just pour out of me and leave, kind of like what you'd experience with like a ego death or something. I just felt this wash of energy, and then I felt peace. And I went to Anna later on that day, and I said to her, I trust myself in this place. I trust myself in this place. So I think that's the battle testing that we're doing in a sense. Is it going to be okay? Mm-hmm. Am I going to be able to show up and be present as the parent, as the connected self, when something that I couldn't have shown up for before happens? You know, am I going to be this cool, steady hand? Am I going to go to war with the rest of the world? And if you know yourself and you know what you're creating with in the world, you don't have to go to war. You don't have to live what your ancestors lived, or what your family has lived, or what your communities have lived before. And then that's essentially what we're choosing right now. We're choosing to create a different kind of life. And we talked about this last time, but if you are your worldview, it's through your lens, no one else's. If you are in a place of inner peace, deep inner peace, then you're in a place of world peace. If enough people come online with that, the world will look like that. But if you're walking in inner peace, what's the difference? You'll be experiencing world peace, whether the world's at peace or not. Right. Just by virtue of...
Right. Your own space and thought, your own perception.
Yeah.
And at the same time, you're still subject to that, you know? Just because you walk in your space and bubble, you're still subject to the world.
You're still attracting the one experience.
Right.
So if there's a lesson that you need to attract or draw, it'll come.
It'll come.
Yeah. Yeah, and I had a lady that was teaching in her office at one point. She got that question. She said, okay, well, what about when something bad happens to good people? What about that? And this is where we get into the minutia of being a human. And we say, this is good and this is bad. This is good if somebody lives 82 and a half years. It's terrible if they live 81 years. Their life was cut short.
Right.
Or if someone comes into the world for a short period of time, meets a violent end, and leaves. leaves this physical body, even though you can't cleave from life. Life is continuous. You can't cleave from life. Consciousness, you can't cleave from that. You are that. You are connected to that. You can't be separate from it. You can be separated from this physical body, but you can't be separated from life. So that's what we're making the mental gymnastic, the mental leap with.
And we've never been shown this. Even if we were loved as children, we've never been shown unconditional love in all aspects of life. And so anywhere we haven't been shown unconditional love, we have to show up that way for ourselves. And it's in places that are really hard to love inside sometimes. But it's possible. We know because we've been doing it. That's been our journey. And so, you were joking earlier about seeing us as human, but it's like I'm all aspects of humanity. And that's been my journey, is to love those inside of myself.
Right.
And it builds trust.
Yeah, and and at the same time, I think people, we still need that. The people that we hold near and dear to us and we put on a little higher pedestal, because it's that thing you're still searching for that's sometimes not obtainable, but you can get it from others. And it's the same as the little kid that's just like what do they call Taylor Swifties?
Yeah.
Right? They look at Taylor Swift, and if they get a chance to meet her, they're in awe,
Sure.
You're what I've painted you to be. You're that, that monumental thing that I push for, or that thing that I idolize. I'm no way saying I'm a Swiftie for the Benjamin, but I can get there.
Well, this is
A Benny.
Yeah.
A Benny. I could be a Benny, but
That's good. I can't wait to get on People magazine.
yeah, Benny.
Yeah.
But it's that, I mean, and I'm sure I'm that way to someone else. My boys look at me that way all the time, and they'll even say it. I think it's healthy.
We take people on in that sense.
Yep.
We're saying, like, I'm going to have you be my teacher for a little while. I'm going to watch what you're doing, because you're doing something that I'm not doing. And we do that. I've done that with people. And I've gone through, and like when I say my teacher, I've had like so many I can't even count, but the people I just watch for maybe a short period of time, and they're doing something like with what we're getting into right now, what I feel like is forming, which sounds aggrandizing, but it's not. I feel like there's going to be large platforms and stages and big groups of people that we're connecting with. I just feel like it's an is. I feel like that's very strongly. So I was watching Martin Luther King, I was watching JFK, I was watching RFK, I was watching Malcolm X, I was watching Maya Angelou, I was watching anyone who stood in a vulnerable position where they could get hurt. Nelson Mandela, where they were standing in a way where they were speaking something that wasn't necessarily widely accepted by the world, but they were willing to risk their life to say it. And when you get to a certain point where, we were talking about this before, when you transcend the belief that you do die, the physical form, yes, but otherwise, the energy is continuous. You're part of a river. You can't be cleaved from that river.
Exactly.
So you say, this is what I come here to do. I can live a fractionated existence, and if I live, several thousand days more, but I've been doing it under a rock, is that worth more than 5 days?
Right.
Or 5 minutes?
Right.
Or 5 years?
Yes.
In my soul expression. Living my dharma, living my truth, living my, the unique way that we've been created. I can't be you no matter how hard I try. And we were talking about this when we got in here, because you both were being complimentary about words. But if I was meant to be doing this, I'd be doing this, right? And yet this is indispensable, just like everything else. So no one feature is greater than the other. We're this clockwork that's working together. It's just, we've been walking around in a world where we're watching people do things that are not their dharma or their soul truth. And we see the cost that creates, that untruth. So we take models, we have to. And then once we've assimilated that, we take another model.
Yeah. Which in turn is spiritual growth. Right? You're constantly feeding.
Yeah.
So, and you were asking, are we going to be okay? Like, am I going to be okay? Like, I'm not a great speaker like these two, right? But that's the beauty of it, because
You guys are entertaining as hell.
I can respond in my own creative way of my answer to, are we going to be okay? And this is my answer to, are we going to be okay?
Yeah. Yeah. And I see where you're going with that already, good sir. That's a beautiful setup there. I mean, that's a good line there.
Yeah. No words.
You ain't got the answer, Sway.
That's my answer. Yeah. If we're gonna be okay. If we're gonna be okay, that's the answer.
while
Call me an optimist.
No,
I mean that.
that's while playing it. I felt okay. Literally, I felt okay.
If I could produce music instead of words, that'd be so much more effective than the spoken word. If someone asked me a question, I was like, and then like synthesized music came out of my voice.
Yeah, right. Well, that's what you have us for, right?
That's exactly it.
That's why we're together, isn't it?
Well, it's why music is universal.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so is, some people say language is not universal. I beg to differ because there's so many different dialects. And I beg to differ. Language is 100% universal. You may not understand what the person is saying, but the expression coming off his or her person, you understand exactly what they're saying.
Yeah. Yeah, we like to say words are the boats that carry the emotion, the energy, and the expression. So every word you say becomes like another vessel or another boat that you're sending out into the world.
It's nice.
Yeah, it is.
It's not. It's literally. Would you say it's a proverbial message in the bottle?
It is a message in the bottle if you choose to open the bottle.
If you choose to open the bottle and listen.
That's right.
You see, being the type of mind that I am, Ben, and I'm walking and I'm taking long walks on the shore of the beach, and I see the message in the actual bottle, I'm the guy that's opening that shit up because I really want to know what this message said. And I know it's for me,
Yeah.
I'm the only one around. I can visually see it's there, so
Right.
I want to know what the message is. Yeah, see? Yes, we want to know what the message is. But could you imagine? Now, hear this one out. Let's say it's the bottle, right? And let's say Ben speaks these words into the bottle. Doesn't write anything down. Speaks it into the bottle. A bottle full of words. Washes up on shore. I pop the cork to this bottle, and Ben's words, his actual voice comes out of the bottle. And I'm like, holy shit. That's a profound bottle. You think that happens out there in the world, Ben?
If I brush my teeth or if I have a breath mint beforehand, I think that's even more
Yes,
powerful.
now see, geez, I didn't think about that. This bottle could have been baking in the sun for a duration of time, and who knows the god-awful funk that would emit.
I'm just saying, if it's morning breath, you probably don't want that message.
I don't think anybody wants that message. Yeah. Wait, Anna, you said you do?
Yeah.
Well, that's because she loves everything about you. I don't know if my wife would say the same. As I'm thinking about this, maybe she would, maybe she wouldn't.
Yeah.
Maybe she'd say, babe, before you speak to me, okay, you need to handle that before I take you serious. Because right now I cannot focus on anything you're saying as you singe my nostrils. I don't know.
Think about this profound thing, okay? You're stranded on an island, straight Tom Hanks, Castaway style. You have a pencil, a piece of paper, and a bottle with a cork. In my mind, I'm split on what I do. Do I just put the paper in there with nothing written on it? Or do I write something? That's like, you're sending this thing off. Someone's going to run into it sooner or later. But what's more profound? Opening the bottle with nothing on it, with nothing on the letter, or opening it with a SOS, or I'm trapped on an island, or
Which you can't give coordinates to anyway.
or someone's last wishes, or what's more profound?
Well, it's interesting because it's someone has to pick up that. I mean, if that actually lands to shore, and someone stumbles across it, you're really asking the question: what message would you give to yourself, or a stranger, or someone who's picking up perhaps your last signal?
Yeah, right.
What do you want your last signal to be?
Right.
Potentially. I mean, he's living off of coconuts, so that's in his time with Wilson.
Right, talking to a soccer ball, I was going to say.
Yeah. So what message would you want to give to yourself if that was your last signal? And the blank message is interesting because it's open to interpretation.
It is.
It's like it's a mystery.
Well,
In my mind, clearly I sent this bottle knowing this is my last days on this island, okay? am I going to leave this world with more bullshit? I mean, just because I write on it doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be bullshit words or not anything that any person who's on this planet for their last whatever days left and whatever they write on that bottle, that's it. But
If you were on the other side of
do
it,
you leave bullshit? Like, how could you sum up the very essence of your last few days
But I think
on this piece of paper that you're going to send off for God knows who to
right,
view?
and I think the blank notion would be that. For me, it would be, you know what? I lived it, right?
Yeah.
The summation of it is, I fucking lived it.
I know
you
what
get no
coconuts
messages
taste
from
like.
me.
I know what coconuts taste
like.
Yeah, but on the other side of it, so if you could flip it, you know, you're thinking this out. You're not on the island. You've transposed yourself. You are on the island and you're not on the island. You're thinking, what would I want to find if I was picking up a bottle? Maybe you want something funny. Maybe you think this guy's on an island. He's probably going to send us coordinates. I found a bottle, and you just see a bottle with a note. And you take out the note, and it said, "Who farted?"
Right.
It's just like, why did it even bother?
Right.
You know, and that's a greater mystery too. Like the blank piece of paper is, but why would this castaway take all that time and effort just to tell me a joke,
Yes.
or just to say something irreverent?
Yes. I mean,
Like he was so okay with his fate.
Yeah.
Right.
That he's
would
going to take
joke.
his one lifeline, his one phone call in prison. He's going to take that, and he's just going to do a fart joke. Why not? Or whatever profound wisdom he had. Maybe that's what you write down. Maybe you write down, now that I'm here in this space, sitting on this island, finally able to see the stars, not focused on what I'm going to do tomorrow or whether I'm going to have it tomorrow, I finally get the mystery of life. And I'm sending this message to you right now.
See, Kanye would say right now, he would like, so you got the answers. So you got the answers, huh, Ben? That's what Kanye would say.
I feel like I'm on an island right now.
Well, here's the thing: when you play these games with Ben, I've come to notice. Okay, do not play message in the bottle with someone who knows their way around wordplay. I've just figured this shit out. It's like going up against Einstein and you're just like barely figuring out that 4 plus 4 equals like, is it 8? Yeah, and that's the type of shit you're gonna get yourself into.
He just doesn't want to be buttoned down.
I don't want to be in a bottle.
Yeah, you don't want to
Right.
be in a bottle.
Yeah.
But the essence of this question is something I've been sitting with a lot, and it's it's why am I here if I'm not here to be an impact? And so writing something on the paper and like leaving a part of yourself on the paper is like putting yourself into the world, claiming I am here. And I think, at least I'll speak for myself, like I've really lived a life of trying to be as small as possible because I just have all of this me inside of me, you know? And if I'm here on Earth, I might as well be an impact. I might as well share whatever is in here with the world around me. Because otherwise, what am I doing here? I don't know.
Right. So you're wanting to give that up. I mean, you're wanting to constantly put that out there. Like even during my life when I was here for you. And even at the end of my life, I'm going to be here for you, even with the last of my words.
Yeah.
I can respect that because it's kind of like you owe that, not just to yourself, but you owe it to me.
Yeah.
You owe it to this guy, that guy, because you were not nothing.
Right.
You were an actual existence on this spectrum.
Yeah.
You partaked in the game. Yeah, it's very fitting, but it's also, it goes to his wild ass brainiac ideas. It's also fitting for the guy who feels like he has nothing left to say.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
How would that be though if you walked on the beach and you found a bottle and it said something like, "I've always loved you."
Oh my God! For a person that like actually, you don't even have to actually need that,
Yeah.
right?
But you've always been loved, or the love that you've sought has always been here. Just something like that, to where we did that. We didn't go on an island, but we found.
Wait! Before you start, Marilyn says before you get into it, she says her message would be that I have the KFC fried chicken recipe.
The 11 herbs and spices.
The 11 herbs and
That's
spices.
under lock and key.
bin.
I don't believe it.
And then she mentions the Schrodinger's cat. Is that what, am I saying that right?
Yeah.
Schrodinger's cat? She mentioned that earlier, but she had
She
to.
knows the answer.
Yeah, she's like, you guys, I'm putting in the bottle fucking the KFC recipe.
Yeah, just don't mix the two together. I don't want dead cat with KFC spices.
Right. Yeah, we can't do that.
No,
But,
but it tastes like chicken all the same.
right.
We found, those like the little gardens where kids will write down like a message on a stone, and you can sometimes take these stones. Like it'll be something where you can leave a stone, you can take a stone, and we had taken a stone. I forget exactly where we were. It wasn't Florida. We were in Florida, and I carried it in my pocket, waiting for the right time and space to leave it somewhere. Kind of like the message in the bottle. Because things like that, those are the arrows pointing back. You know, when you and I first got together, I would watch Anna take dollar bills and like put them in places sometimes because she knew that people would find them. And that would just be like this magic. They were finding the magic, you know?
A God wink.
Yeah, the God wink.
It's okay.
A little God wink. So we in the rental car, we left it in the glove box, but it said something like, "You are loved," or something along those lines. It had like a little profound message, and I could see that all the people that were moving the cars were in a stressed out state, and I just felt like I got the signal to leave it, and then whoever's meant to find it will find it, and it'll be that little God wink or that little moment where they're reminded, like what we were talking about at the beginning, like these little reminders that are these synchronicities that happen at the right moment, and we are finally like so stressed out or in such a space to where we can finally receive the message. I don't know how many times we get the same message, by the way. Like I'll say something profound every now and again, and when it hits, and sometimes it's something I've said dozens of times, but it was the first time that it was ever really heard. Yeah.
What about the guy who actually looks at the bottle and just decides, I'm not going to open it?
Oh,
Anybody can answer this one. I'm just putting that out there.
That's hardcore.
Where are you at in your life when that's the option?
Or just throw the bottle back into the ocean.
Without even reading it.
That's going unanswered. My prayers going unanswered, so is theirs.
Oh, wow.
That's a cynical guy.
Yeah.
That's okay.
Or he's just fully cooked goose. He's fully enlightened. He's
Yeah.
like, I'm good.
Yeah, he's like, that guy's toast anyways. It's all right.
But could the totally enlightened individual still gain something? Like, what's the max?
I think any human being on the planet is still learning and growing. They're here for a reason.
Yes.
Yeah, as long as we have a physical body, we're still in this dimensional plane. So I don't have all the answers, but my feeling is like to transcend this physical form is to have transcended, you could say, the Earth School. One of my teachers called it the Earth School.
You graduate.
But then you become like a greater aggregation, a greater, conglomeration of consciousness or God pieces, of, a larger portion of the ocean.
I'm a big proponent in that once you transcend, you've completed your task. You've done what you set out to do. Unknowingly, whether we had these life plans, and that's what we constructed for ourselves. We had this narrative built before we got here. We mapped it out. This is who we're going to affect. This is who we're going to teach. This is what I'm going to learn. And this is going to be somewhat the timeline where I am going to transcend, when I know that I have reached the end of my story.
Well,
Like,
here's an interesting point to that. Like, there were a couple of celebrities that passed away recently. One was Richard Simmons. Another one was Shannon Doherty. They died on the same day. And for whatever reason, I've been tracking Shannon Doherty for a couple of years because she had developed cancer and she'd overcome it, and then she developed it again. And I felt like very strongly that her timeline was coming to a cessation point. And this is just one of many examples, but you see a lot of people that put out like this work, and then you see with their life, for lack of a better word, it's like kind of fizzling out. Like they've made their major push, their major expression. And some people just kind of like coast, and some people like, that's it. That's what they've come to do. Like, I feel like they have reached that cycle within this life. I would see people in practice who would heal, but to heal, they would have had to face something big and then experience a death cycle. A part of them goes on in a sense, like they transmute the energy. But then they're living with this second lease on life where they're not quite the same person and the same expression as they were before. Like they have like a second mission or a second purpose. Yeah, a second purpose. But yeah, it's just something I've noted with paying attention to celebrity passings and things along those lines. You'll see a lot of people where they've made their push, they've made their imprint, they've done their thing. I know, like with Tupac, I was following recently, had 700 songs. Like he knew he was not going to live a long life. Most people that I've come across have had a sense of when their time is up. And I feel like we're going to know. We'll be very clear on that.
right. And I think Tupac was an urban messiah in his own right.
Yeah.
Whether at the time, I remember being heartbroken. It was like, for me, it was like watching Jesus being crucified all over again.
Yeah.
Because he had this conflicted life. He could tell you one moment, you don't have to be an alpha male, and you can succumb and give up and just be vulnerable and have emotions and care about Brenda's baby. You know what I mean? And love your mother. But then he would also show you the ugly sides of life. And, what was the one that caused the most controversy? Hit 'em up.
Hit 'em up, yeah.
And then, he painted such pictures that you were like, geez, no artist is doing this in our time in that moment. And I can't think of one that's doing it now. They've all come close. It's just like Jesus, right? He was just that one person, that one reflection of us, one of him, but it was all of us. And it's the same with Tupac. It was just one of him, but everybody emulates what he put across. But now it's just, again, he's all of us. I wonder about that. I wonder, we have all, like you mentioned Martin Luther King and you mentioned Malcolm X and all these pivotal people, John Lennon, Bob Marley, Kurt Cobain, Bradley Nowell of Sublime. We have like these musicians and these artists, and I have to believe a form of them is what they saw back then with Jesus. I think there's a cycle of a coordinating entity or a consciousness that reminds us of our shit, and we get that every so cycle. We could paint we give them all kind of names, right? We give them. I just listed them off. Those are the names I'm giving you, and I have to believe that that's what their positions and titles are about. I never would have said that Tupac was an urban messiah until we just had this conversation. For whatever moment, just made me think of that.
He carried that though.
I was just gonna say, I think one of the things that's so powerful about him was he was masculine and feminine, embodied.
Speaking to that thing, don't be afraid of it.
Okay.
Get personal with it.
He was masculine and feminine, embodied, at a time when that was really not portrayed very often, especially in male musicians. And I think that's something that is really coming about right now in the world, that people are embodying both these aspects of self, and it's allowing us to be here more fully embodied as a spiritual being.
Yeah. you're right, because people like, for example, Marvin Gaye, he would sing to you about sexual healing and why the world it is what it is, and why is my dollar always being taken, and this and that. But he would never show you the thug side, the aggression. He paints a lovely picture of love and this, but Tupac had the duality.
Right.
He had the ability to put his feet in both worlds. Partly was because he was raised solely by his mother, and Black Panther Party,
Right.
but his militant mind, but yet his passionate heart had these, I would like to think, these huge struggles. Which one is dominant? Which one do I want to be?
We were talking about rage earlier. You had mentioned you were talking about rage.
Yeah.
And how in order for somebody to embody their divine masculine, they have to be willing to face and embrace that rage inside of them and learn how to trust themselves in that place. And I think some of the people that you're talking about really had faced and embraced their shadow, and or it overcame them, and that was the end.
Yeah, Zach De La Rocha, we're talking about the same rage, right?
Well, yeah, he did embody that.
Yeah.
But there's a power that comes.
A great power.
Yeah.
And I'm surprised, to take it to him, he was a profound speaker. Like, he spoke his mind out against the government. And people that have been known to do that, we've known them to be assassinated, right? Like, they don't last long. You don't live long with that kind of power. And you could see the sea of people he drove. That was anarchy at its finest.
Yeah. Well, so all of these figures, like I did a video on Tupac recently because I was wanting to understand that duality that he embodied. And I think what you're describing between that and artists that portray just one feature of themselves, he was such a out there figure and such a public figure. I think of Mike Tyson in that way too, because Mike Tyson can also be very profound.
Yes.
Not necessarily as a musician, but he's done some music, but he's out there. And about, a child of his that had drowned. About the, domestic violence pieces. About all these different things, but then he speaks and then you hear this humanity, you hear this depth to him. He talked about mushrooms on this podcast. He's experienced deep, deep levels of transcendent consciousness. And I think what they remind us of is that, one, this thread exists within all of us. Them living it out loud shows us what we've hidden behind closed doors. And this era that we're moving into right now, I feel, is an era where anything that you've hidden will no longer remain hidden. It can't. And we'll have to just be able to live in a world where we are seeing through one another, where anything you've tried to hide will be a limiting factor as to how much you expand or where you live within the world, but we won't be able to hide anymore. And I don't think that's a bad thing. But Tupac, to me, represents one where he was aware of all these different things that he was facing. He was able to rise and produce this rose-thick red of concrete within his life. And his music was able to reach me. I was not living in the world that he was living in. And I saw him kind of like a messiah figure at a time where I didn't really have a lot of role models or people that I followed. But then, the hit 'em up pieces and things like that too, I felt like I understood, but I didn't cop to, I didn't get into. And it's like you're watching somebody work their emotions and work their shadow and work it all out, but they don't have the ability to say, I'm going to step away. Like, they're just doing it in front of the camera, in front of everybody.
And it's kind of like he orchestrated his own demise. You live by the sword, die by the sword. Isn't that what they say?
Yeah.
And he always talked about how he would be shot up and
Biggie too.
Yeah, these premonitions.
Biggie actually clapped back on him posthumously. Like after Tupac died, he did, I forget the name of the song, but he did a response to Hit 'Em Up off his double LP. And then he passed away, I think before that album was actually released.
Yeah. And they both, tragic as it is, have tragic deaths, you know? It's just something about that era, and it was something about those times. I don't know. I just looked at it like this is where our music is taking us. We rode the highs of the words they put out, and we had to ride the depths that they left us with. Like, I'm like, if music is doing this, it's like I have to reevaluate music, because music was not supposed to be this way. It wasn't supposed to be a thing of violence, like, you know, and you speak about it and you die for it.
Yeah, but
You know?
he was live by the sword, die by the sword. He was showing where he came from. And then I think what was brilliant about that is I lived in suburbia. I lived in a world that was not perfect, but manicured in many ways. And he brought a world to my world that I wouldn't have been aware of otherwise.
Right.
And so he became, I think, I mean, that's something you see with like Colin Kaepernick and people like that too, or Muhammad Ali, but they became a voice for the voiceless. And I think with Tupac, I don't think he had a choice, because even though he had risen from that world, he was still fighting the demons of it. He was still living like 1 foot in that world. He had never escaped it. He never like moved into like the Beverly Hills lifestyle and just transcended that. He was still in that world. But because of that, he got to bring that to the forefront and show people a world that they tried to keep out, that they tried to ignore. They couldn't.
It's just thinking about how at that time I was a teenager and I had such deep anger inside of me and such deep rage inside of me. And I didn't have any way to really express it or anyone to share it with. So listening to music was so deeply important and therapeutic at that time. You know, I loved angry music, like across the board, all different kinds. And had they not been willing to express that and have the courage to share on that level, I don't know how I would have done as a teenager. I think music was so deeply important.
Yeah, because I mean, and I get it, when you're in that angry state, you gravitate towards the music that most fits your state.
Yeah,
your
it's
state
like
of
they're
mind.
speaking for me.
Right.
Even if we're not living the same life, the emotion is the same.
Music definitely changed my course in life. It brought us to where I am today. And the artist that did that was, at that time, my brother brought home, what was it? Oh, for me, it was Cranberries.
Oh, yeah.
I went from Thuggish Ruggish Bone,
Yeah,
Yeah.
E40,
sure.
Killer Mike,
Yeah.
and then when he met this woman named Lena, and he brought home a Cranberries cassette, and I listened to Dolores' voice for the first time.
Yeah, angelic.
Oh my God, it resonated so much. I was then on the path of seeking out what other music can I find, and then outside of my paradigm of music, which was culturally like hip hop, right,
Yeah.
or gangster rap, enters Matchbox 20. Here comes Dave Matthews Band, and I'm just like intrigued, like, who's this white guy with black people playing with him?
Yeah.
Totally out of my wheelhouse at that time. And I'm like, I love this music. And it just evolved. It evolved so much that I was like, I need to express this and get this out of me. I'm going to go get an instrument.
Yeah.
And I'm going to figure this shit out. And so music for my brother and I was literally life-saving.
Yeah.
Because without it, I don't know where it could have taken us.
Yeah.
But it was literally the man outside of the railroad, and he's changing the track. You know, it's like, oh, this is where you guys bifurcate. You know, you're going to go this way,
Yeah.
and thank God for it.
Well, and it shows you the transcendent nature. It's like when you eat another cuisine from another country, you're taking in You're taking those codes, those frequencies, that culture. It's the same way with music. And I think it's perhaps why I love music so much, because there is that universal nature to it. It's something where you can have, like I was talking to Anna about the Dave Brubeck band. They had that famous jazz single, Take Five, one of the most famous ones of all time. And they had I want to say a bassist of color at the time. And Dave, playing in certain venues, couldn't bring one of his musicians in. So I believe, if the story holds true, he didn't perform there. He didn't play there. Music was this glue that brought people to transcend. And it's interesting because right now, like, for us, spirituality is that. It's seeing that common essence, but it was always within the music. The music was always a common essence. It's where we got lost with being told that the world is a particular way, or that we are separate. Cranberries are interesting too, because I believe they were from Northern Ireland, and one of their songs, "Zombie," spoke of the atrocities that had happened between Ireland and Northern Ireland, the Irish Catholics and Irish Protestants, where they were fighting one another. And so you can see then a group that maybe looks different than NWA or something along those lines, but they're speaking of living in a world where the institutions of power were not working with them, and they felt alienated, and they felt like they had to fight, in a sense.
Right, and music is that. It's that literal timesheet of events.
Yeah.
You can look back at all music and go, look at Motown back then. The injustice, the racism, and they talked about that. In the 40s and 50s, it was all about the love and the girl and the top down, and they spoke about it. Bill Withers spoke about the war of Vietnam during his time. And it's just, music can be a great catch-all for even the current events of those times. So when you look at our time, which I believe would be the 90s, like when did Tupac die? 97, 98?
96, I want to say.
Right.
Yeah, 96.
That was our time,
Yeah.
For us, that was our Jesus. For all of us, he reached all cultures.
Yeah.
I don't know one culture that he hasn't affected.
Yeah.
You can look on the internet now and you can see a bunch of Tupac Shakur posters on someone's wall. And back then, in those, biblical times, they didn't have pictures they had pictures of Jesus, but I'm sure he was the talk of the town.
Yeah.
So much to the point where they had to kill the woodworker,
Yeah.
So how loud of a voice was he? And who was before he? It just didn't stop with him. And I don't take part to the, and I don't want to get like deep into religion, but it's just my personal belief. It's not that, Jesus, our Savior, is coming back. He's coming back for us. No, he was us.
Yeah.
That was his moment then. No one's going to come back and save you but us. Jesus left here saying, I'm you, you are me. I'm just showing you the tools. You are all Jesus. I'm just choosing to put this more out there and readily available to you. I don't know who was before him and who was before him, but they all had the same common goal, because I can see it in our timeline.
Yeah. It was Tito and Jermaine.
Well, there is Tito and Jermaine. Right. I don't know about Tito, but Jermaine.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's in our timeline. We have them.
There were some people who believed that, in one of the stories that I've heard, and it's a story, that he had gone to India during the time, because you have
The 30 years.
Yeah, you have zero and you have him in his 30s. And that he had actually studied with the gurus and taken.
Just gonna say that.
Yeah.
But there's also, I've also heard things like that he wasn't in the Roman census at the time. And then you have stories of him dating back to ancient Samaria, and you have stories within ancient Egypt. The bottom line of it, though, is what you're alluding to, which is what we subscribe to. Whether you call it Christ consciousness, whether you call it your Buddhahood, whether you call it universal consciousness, whether
I
you
think
call
you
it
could
the
call
I.
it truth.
Truth.
And
yeah.
that same for Tupac, same for
Yeah.
anyone we're talking about right now. It's truth.
Yeah.
And the vulnerability to express that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and you, but you have that burning up inside you so much. We're listening to quite a bit of hip hop and rap on the way down to Virginia, and what I noticed, there was a couple of songs I listened to. One was The Lox featuring DMX. Another one was Mace featuring DMX. Okay, probably already know where I'm going to go with this, but you have The Lox, the rappers within there. And they're doing their verses, and then you get to DMX, and you could just energetically, just so much of a different energy, just like on fire, like his life depends on it. And then the same thing with the Maze 24 Hours to Live, listening to that song. When you get to the DMX part, it's like he's rapping for his life. And what I've been doing with like poetry recently, and even with some of the things I'm putting online, is I've been bringing more energy into what I'm sharing as though my life depends on it. But another way to put that would be I'm putting all of my life force into what I'm doing. And that's something that, whether you're talking about Sublime with Brad Eno, whether you're talking about Tupac, whether you're talking about Biggie, whether you're talking about Bob Marley, they made music, Dave Matthews, they make music like their life depends on it. I was, from listening to Dave Matthews with you guys last time, I was listening to Tripping Billies, which I hadn't listened to in like 15 or 20 years. And just how it starts, even if you have the volume on low, it hits you like immediately. It just dun, and all of a sudden, like, you're struck with the energy. The same thing with like a DMX verse or anything else along those lines. There's so much energy there. They're not wasting your time. They're not even necessarily saying something that has to be profound, but there's so much energy with it that it captures your attention.
They're embodied.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
It's something about those souls where their voice just stands out so much that makes them have such notoriety, right?
Yeah.
I imagine we fit very well into their life circle, but the universe has played their cards just a little bit more pronounced than ours, right? We have those figures and we can all acknowledge them. And I'm glad that the universe does that. It's like reading a novel and the universe takes its highlighter and highlights this sentence, and that's how we are. It just highlights this little bit of consciousness.
Yeah.
Look at this,
Shows us something.
It does. We show ourselves something.
Yeah.
Possibility, I think, for what we're capable of. I truly think that any human being is capable of that. But they have to be willing to be so vulnerable and seen and impactful, which takes a huge amount of responsibility. If you're willing to influence an entire world of people, you have to really be willing to trust yourself in that place that you can show up, or have so little self-awareness.
However you make it work, just make it work.
Yeah.
But it's interesting because when you start coming online in that way, you change. And I was talking to you earlier about like opening up your energy body. And I was doing an activity where like I open up my soul chakras, open up my root chakra. And when I would do that with people in meditation, it would feel like all of a sudden like they were 10 feet underwater. Like just the level of pressure and embodiment that you can do, it becomes it becomes something like practice. But what I would do with meditation group is I would do the Om chant, right? Which I can do right now if you want, but I would do the Om chant. And when I was doing that initially, when I would get to the part, my voice would crack and it wouldn't go that far. But as I was getting into greater levels of embodiment, the sounds were changing within me. My voice was changing. When these faculties come online, it's like having all the lights and all the features and like all the instruments going, And you can see that within your own life, like with the studio that you guys have built. As these faculties are getting online, that room that you'd walked into where you just had created the space, you're the first one to show up, as it were, starts to fill, And that's how I would see the mantras that we would be doing. I would watch as I would do the Om. the empty space and everything. And I would watch the whole room just go into it. And I would do that sometimes deeper, sometimes with a lower voice. And the sound rhythm itself, are you guys familiar with cymatics? Cymatics is like where you take a sound plate and you run like a sound wave, and you can see the sacred geometry. It'd be really cool to watch on YouTube. That's all I know. I'm not an expert on it, but you run sound waves, vibrations, and
They
and
do
it's,
it with water and sand.
yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah.
water and sand, and it's creating these sacred geometric patterns, right? The Om symbol is an example of that, or the Om chant is an example of that. And some people I've heard say it's like the sound of the universe, you know, the alpha and the omega, as it were. And the empty space is like the void space by which we go back into and return. So there's four sounds with Om, and then silence. And what I'm leading into is these great figures, and they are great because they reached to a point of transcendence where we noticed them and we were able to see them as our mirrors. Had to turn on energetically in a way that made them impactful. They couldn't just be up there with no energy, like a Taylor Swift, as an example. Anna and I talk about this, but the amount of energy that she has to be able to hold and maintain, to be able to be in the world as public as she is, on stage and bring that level of energy and not exhaust. She has to be tapped in some way. Otherwise, she'd be dead, or she would be exhausted.
Exhausted, yep.
But to be
Burnt
able
out,
to take
yep.
in all that energy from the world, and still maintain a positive public persona, a positive image, and to be able to perform like that.
But I've heard too that for performing for big crowds like that, the crowd usually gives you a lot more energy and it like gives you the energy, and you just feed off each other, you know?
I was taking somebody in recently, and she talks about what celebrity is. She helps coach people to how to be celebrity, but she says that in order to be a celebrity, you have to feel safe being perceived by millions of people, which I thought was like, she teaches people how to rewire their brain so that they feel safe doing that, because that takes a special type of person to feel safe with that. Otherwise, you feel deeply endangered, I think.
Yeah, I can imagine, because now you just went from this perceivable nobody, right? That your family and friends know, to billions knowing you. Like, how vulnerable does that feel? At any, like, people just like diving at the car to, like, this is something that if you're not into that particular like lifestyle, it may look like it's all fun and roses, but I could imagine some of the horrors of these celebrities. Like, they can't even go out and get a decent pair of shoes, or go sit down and eat dinner anymore. Like, what does that do to somebody where you become that big?
Yeah.
You become so big that you cannot entertain, you cannot be in life anymore.
But you have people like Keanu Reeves that are like riding the subway.
Right.
And he just has like
But
that
see Keanu Reeves built a narrative around it.
and like Adam Sandler as well.
Right?
Yeah.
They built these so people know who they are.
Yeah, they're
right?
approachable.
They're very approachable. Yes, they can get overwhelmed.
Yeah.
But I would like to think like 80% of people respect their position because how they've conducted themselves with their fame.
Yeah,
like
they're
with their,
genial people.
Yes.
Good-natured.
Right.
Yeah.
Like if Keanu Reeves just showed up right now.
He's been sitting on the couch the entire time.
The dude could just sit on the couch and I would be just as comfortable as the four of us in this room, you know?
Yeah.
And he would bring that type of energy. He just emits.
This is how celebrities feel, or anybody. This is how anybody would feel when they're in a situation where all eyes are on them. Are you ready?
Yeah. Oh, see, there we go. He's going to go into part 3 there, Bobby.
Part 3.
kind of brings you back around, doesn't it? It's like it brings you back full circle.
Have you all recorded an album?
We are in the process of that,
Nice.
and we're taking YouTube through the process of it. So
Yeah.
step by step, song by song, and then when it's all said and done, we've all went through this ride together. And when the album is out, they'll remember the times, the beating against the head, the struggles, the what do we take out, what do we put in, and it's that. I think that was the goal for our first album, is to show us literally putting together our first album, so they could be there and witness how it's done. I think I would have loved to have seen this in my younger years, watch Dave Matthews Band sit and build a whole album. You know, I would nerd out on that and go, just be in awe, just be like, oh my God, like they're doing this, they're doing their, look at, what are they saying? What?
Yeah.
I wish, like, sometimes when I meet people for the first time, I could take my soundtrack with me, like a portion of my album, and then just play certain aspects of it, whatever pertains to the conversation at hand or whatever emotion is going, you know, and just cue that up a little bit and let people hear how they sound when there's another projection, you know, on the same emotional level as them,
Yeah.
and how profound that their words truly are. You know, when you speak to me, I'm going to soundscape that. Like, you deserve to know how that sounds when you speak to someone, you know, because when you put music behind it, it's going to help you get your message or whatever you have to say out. Not that it's going to do it better, but you know, a person is not going to look past himself or someone else that they're talking to, you know, because there's this grand unified field that has just encapsulated both parties,
Right.
you know, and I can just take that. I could take the volume up and you'll be like, but it's the same vibe. But if I take the volume up, you're like, oh no, that's chaos.
Yeah.
If I bring it down low while you're speaking, same vibe, your body reacts different, you know? So the one thing I really respect about you guys is, from day one, is you had this volume that you came with. And it's not a loud, overwhelming volume. It's a, hey, we're here. And it's like, I can't run from that at all, you know? And I always tell him, nothing sounds offensive here. When we're writing our music, when we're meeting people for the first time, those words are a synthesizer in my mind. And nothing sounds offensive until it sounds offensive, you know? But it doesn't take someone to say a word to him and I before we already figured out this is going to be a negative interaction. Or we'll walk up to someone and go, this is going to be a blast.
Yeah.
They have no idea what they're in for right now.
Yeah.
You know, and then it's the Wonder Twins Activate show. And everyone's captivated, like,
Like today, we go into Costco. Now Costco knows who we are. We go to places, the twins are readily available. So when we go to Costco now, it's like every some employees that, it's the twins. The twins are here. You know, it's the vibe of Costco has now elevated.
Have they seen you guys' show?
Quite a few of them have.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and they're subscribed, and
Yeah.
we have this like working relationship with the Costco employees, and it's just fun. Like the cashiers, you know, like we know a lot of them now, and it's like, Terrence, stop horse gazing at me. You know, I can acknowledge you're looking at us, and he'll like get all bashful, and then he'll be like, oh, hey guys, and you know, but I don't know, something about bringing light to a room when you know you are of light.
Yeah.
You know, for us, it's with laughter. We go somewhere, and right when we get you to laugh, we know we've done our job, and then we really reel you in, right?
Yeah.
And then your whole day is like, oh, guys are fucking cool, man. You guys, I'm laughing, I find myself just enthralled with your energy. And sometimes when you know you're on, you're on. And those are the moments where you're like, I left that person with a great like outlook. You know, I left that situation and they feel all right in that moment.
It's a great feeling when you do something like that. Like when I would do that in practice with people, if the person would laugh, I had them. And it wasn't like a possession thing or anything along those lines. It was just like, it was like putty in my hands.
Right.
You know, it wasn't manipulation either. It just meant that they were vibing with me. I was vibing with them. And the humor piece is like they let you into their heart for a moment.
Right.
Or they let you into that light place
Yeah.
inside.
You can come in, you make me laugh, you come on in.
Yeah. Yeah. Come on into my house.
Yeah.
You know, I want to spend some time with you.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's, I look for that when I'm in public, like any kind of open door. It doesn't even have to be laughter. It can just be like a moment of soul connection, a moment of, you know, kindness. I went to a gas station the other day. It's a funny thing to even mention, but I was walking in and this guy, he saw me. Like on a soul level, he saw me. I wasn't hiding. I'm looking to make connections with people. But I'm just going inside to use their filthy, filthy bathroom, you know, because I heard it's one of the worst in the nation. I wanted to know from my own
Yeah, of course. Yeah. I need to judge this bathroom myself.
Right, it's like Train Spotting, the dirtiest
Right,
bathroom
right.
in all of Scotland. It was like, it was on that level.
Oh my God. Now, and now I know why when women say I go in the bathroom and I hover, I understand what hover means now.
I hovered. I didn't have to sit down.
Right,
I
right,
was hovering.
yeah.
I didn't even want to touch the floor. I was like,
Right. Oh God.
I was like that character at Kazoo that hung out with Fred Flintstone. I was
Yeah.
just kind of like green and like up
Right,
in the air.
yeah.
But he held the door for me, and he did like this thing where he made eye contact with me, and he nodded, just kind of like a little bit of a bow, and I gave him a little bit of a bow as well. And it was like this honorific soul thing. But just that moment where another person lets you in, and there's like a nod or a God wink or just something. You know, he's with me right now.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he's on the couch next to Keanu.
This couch is getting quite busy over here. We're gonna run out of room here.
Oh, yeah. Keanu is asking for a little bit of space. But
Yeah. Next, we're gonna have Jerry Lewis on the floor, and it's gonna be a shit show when Jerry Lewis gets there.
Well, it will be because he's not alive anymore.
Yeah.
So,
Well, that's true. I forgot about. We're talking about actual living people,
yeah.
but I gotta
But
say at the same
spiritually-
time with the spiritual,
spiritually-
they're just as here as the physical.
Right. Yeah, you call them in, they're here.
Yeah.
True.
I got Archangel Michael. I've got Archangel Keanu.
Have you ever had a deep conversation with Archangel Michael?
Yes.
Can you just enlighten me on what was that like?
I feel like Archangel Michael is, well, one, I feel like any being we talk about is an aspect of ourself.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like some people have more of a, like a resonance with certain beings or certain aspects of themselves. So I would say Archangel Michael is one that's I hear very frequently from a lot of people that they have a close connection with Archangel Michael.
It's funny you would say that because Brian, his wife Deepa, is she's a medium too. She was on our show. She's another one of our oracles. It's funny how we're surrounded by all these oracles, and I love it. But she is always in constant. And she does tarot readings, and she is always, and she's really good.
Yeah.
She's more so with the spirit guide, and she named my spirit guide by name, and nobody knew the name but me. And Frankie was there with her, and I just thought, okay, so yes, she's the real deal. But she always says she's in constant, not influx, but in flow with Michael. What is it?
Yeah, Archangel Michael.
Archangel Michael.
Yeah.
So is he like is that just the angel figure that's just commonly readily available?
Yeah, I feel like maybe certain beings work more with Earth and humanity than others.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like he's really a close one, and I feel like he is known by a lot of different names and a lot of different cultures. So he's maybe part of the conglomeration of energy that was Jesus, part of that being, a part of Horus maybe in Egypt, and so you see him show up in a lot of different stories. But I feel like he works really closely where people feel a friend or a father or a brother or a love, or he's that close.
What type of conversation, or what can I even ask if he has any insight or what he thinks of us in the physical?
Well, you know what I was thinking when you were asking was that part of you that was asking, am I going to be okay? That's Archangel Michael. For me, when I was starting out on the spiritual path and I was so afraid of so many things, and I was really afraid of connecting more deeply within myself. I was afraid to start channeling. I was afraid for so many things because I felt like there was always something bad that was going to get me, you know? And so Archangel Michael was a being I worked with so frequently to really just for that little one inside, for me to have a sense of safety outside of myself, something I felt like I could ask for and rely on in a way, even though I never fully trusted it because it was still outside of myself. But it was enough that I felt like okay to keep moving forward. And even now when I feel, when we'll get into a hotel, we've been traveling a lot, when I get into a hotel room and it feels funky and it's like, I'm okay to like expand into the space and claim that space, but I'll sometimes still call on Archangel Michael to just come into that space with me.
What would you ask of him?
I usually just ask him to, hold and protect the space and claim the space with me. But it's more that it's my little child inside wants to be held by, a father figure and feel safe in that place.
What's some of the validations you get when you ask those things? Do they come right away, or does the validation come later?
Yeah, I feel like the validation comes as a feeling of presence, and so you feel heard.
Yeah, with immediacy.
Yeah.
Yeah, because these features you're always connected with these features.
Right, because he's in the now. Like there's no separation. You call upon it. I'm thinking you just call upon it and it's there, like it's instantaneous.
There's no call waiting.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, could you imagine if he was on a collect call? Like, I'm sorry, Anna, but you have to wait right now. I'm like, this guy is about to jump off a damn roof,
Yeah. But I feel like with any of these beings, find one that feels like home to you. And it could be Archangel Michael, and you could call him Horus, right? And tap into that Horus frequency or whatever being feels like it's there with you. And then call upon that one.
See, and I'm not very, I'm ignorant to a lot of religion.
Yeah.
To the Bible 100%. I couldn't quote really much of anything but what I've heard on TV. We've always been that way. I think if I were to call on somebody, it would be like a spirit guide or like a past relative.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is that just as helpful, and are they able to be readily available?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just my belief though that it's all the same thing.
Oh, and I believe that 100%. I
Yeah.
believe all religions are just tied from source.
Yeah.
Source being God, the universe, the Alpha, the Omega. I don't care how you stroke the brush. It's still art.
Right. So you're just calling on an aspect of God or all or yourself outside of yourself because you're not quite trusting the inside of yourself to be there in that moment. So you're just calling on that aspect outside of yourself to be there with you and be like, hey, be my mirror, show up here, reflect to me all of the goodness that is.
Right, because I think obviously we still need a little help.
Yeah.
And it's okay to ask for it. Like you have to get to a place within your own consciousness, like within your own oh, help me, Ben, within your own self. I don't know, like you have to find that comfortable space within yourself to ask for help. Like
Yeah, be willing to receive it too. We've described, or you've described, the archangels like light rays as well. So if you think of like God, the universe, love, and light as the undifferentiated light, like the light that has not gone through the prism and refracted into
The white light.
so the pure white light. You can think of the archangels then, from that perspective, as rays coming off of that light, and Archangel Michael being
Blue.
one of them, being the blue ray,
Which is truth and power and will
and protection.
and protection.
Protection, often used for protection. And there's what we would do in practice is Michael, Raphael or Raphael, Gabriel, and Uriel. And we can do it now if you want, but it's something where as soon as you call forth that energy, that consciousness, you feel it with immediacy. But just like with a prayer or a blessing or anything else you're doing, if you're anywhere else, if my hand is partially open or if I'm anywhere else, I'm not really going to feel it. If my mind's somewhere else, I'm really not going to feel it. So if you really hear and you're calling forth that energy, it comes with immediacy, and then you start to form like a relationship like you would with a person or someone that you trust. And then as you go deeper and deeper within that, you find that it's not separate from you, and you're actually forming trust within yourself, and you're actually forming a linkage. There's a depiction of the spiritual body, and it's the picture that we used to have.
The I am.
The I am. So you have the man, right? And then you have the Christ above that, the Christed form. And then you have kind of like the monad, or like the all above, higher self. But these beings, whether you call it the Christ or any great teacher, stands as that direct connection to the all, the doorway. And then beyond what we can see in this physical form, there are the beings like the angels and things like that we can connect with. But they're a feature of, they're a representation of the all.
You could even just use the color too. Like if that particular being you don't feel a direct connection with, you could just fill yourself and the room with blue.
We're tied in right now. Can you feel it? Can you feel it?
I feel a lot of things right now.
So I feel a very strong connection through the crown right now. And that's what I'm feeling as an energy. And if you want to play for a moment, if you guys want to play for a moment, we can. But one of my friends had gone to a seminar where they were doing invocation, like invoking to. And I wasn't really much of a believer in that at the time. I believed in Source and all these other things, but he was connecting with Raphael, which is the angel of healing. And I thought, well, let's just try it out and see. And I was finding that what I was doing that was taking more time to do was happening with more immediacy, and I was using that as an invocation point. But then it became a teacher, it became a part of me. So what we would do in practice, if you guys want to, you could say, light of God, or light of spirit, or light of the universe, shine on me, and that would be Uriel. And you could say, love of God, wash over me, and that would be Raphael. Protection of God, protection of universe, protection of source, watch over me, guide me. And then Gabriel would be the voice, would be the guidance, or would be the word. So speak through me, and you can maybe feel the energy that's coming through right now, but it's very peaceful. But whether we actually invoked or whether we just asked for these features to come online, it happens. And I think that's the beauty of it, is that I grew up believing in an orthodoxy. And what I'm finding is if you're willing and able to receive the love that's already flowing down to us anyways, like the same way that a satellite might be able to pick up a signal, it flows into you. And it's just then creating this signal transduction where you're picking up the receiver, signal receiver, signal receiver, signal receiver, and then you become a signal yourself in the world. And so because you are picking up the signal from the universe, whatever that title is for you, and you become a transmitter of that signal. And but you're really just pointing back, and any teacher, like a Christ or otherwise, would have just essentially said, and this is what they said anyways, I am you. And I'm, if you want to know my Father, then you'll know my Father through me. Basically, if you want to know the signal, then you emulate. I'm giving you the blueprint. You follow the blueprint, and you will find your way back to that signal.
I feel like we were introduced into Baptist. Mom was a Baptist. And I'm speaking for myself. I don't know about you, but I don't know if it was just like everything that Reverend was saying was just putting a bad taste in my mouth, or wherever I was at that time in our lives. And we're like, what, 10, 13 years old, and we're listening to him speak. And I'm looking at everybody around us, and they're all dressed to the nines, and people are driving like these Rolls Royce and Cadillacs. And he's up there with like a chain, and he's looking all sharp and good. And even then I could perceive, like, I would ask myself questions. Why do we have to dress up like this? Why does he look like that? What? And I would always say, like, why is he reading us something out of a book that I can't read myself? And why are we coming to this place? And why do I have to get into that water and get dunked? Yeah. The only thing great about church for my brother and I was what the ocean spray, grape juice and the cracker,
yeah,
right?
Me too.
Right? And I would find myself nodding off and dozing off. But I think since then, honestly, for me, I have built these constructs. I've built these structures which have become dilapidated structures. And over time, I see now that I built those walls to shut out something that I couldn't perceive, or I wasn't ready to. But now as I go back into these structures, they're no longer dilapidated now. Now they're all coming back to life. Now they're all being modernized. Now everything is starting to take hold. Not as far as believing in being a Baptist or anything like that, but I think I've now understood what the intent was. It was to give some people a point to find source. It may have been Baptist that sparked it, but it was a starting point. This is just Baptist. This is Christian. This is, Muslim. This is this. It's a starting point. It's for you to get to where you ultimately need to go. And that's going to be up to you and your journey on what your faith is and what you believe in. So without Baptist, am I saying it right?
Baptist,
without the Baptists, I don't think I would have ever found religion, because it at least put into my mind that there is some sort of accountability.
A higher something.
Right.
So when we went to church and I looked at it, and I remember at a young age hopping in that van with the family and going in, I was just like, look at all these people. Like, no one really looks at you. No one really, cares to know you. And then as I'm older, I think back on it and go, everybody had their own agenda. They all assembled in this place that it was based on their appearance, and no one was themselves. They put on a facade to come there, and to do what? Half of them wanted to get in the preacher's pants. The preacher was in the other half's pants. Money was always being exchanged. There was never a message I was willing to take back with me and go, yeah, that was something I'm jiving with.
And
to be fair, I'm not trying to get in anyone's pants.
Right.
Well,
yeah,
except for.
Yeah. and they would always make it seem like the front row would get you there.
Right. And like he was saying, the cranberry juice and the crackers, pass it. Because he's not looking at me. He's not looking at my brother. He's not looking at, anyone sitting in the pews, he's there for a hell of a performance, and that's it.
And we're not saying all,
Not
right?
all,
But this particular
this is my experience.
church.
This is my experience. This is why I believe I never went back and never followed this. It's because first impressions are everything.
Yeah.
And you only have one impression most of the time in life, general. And the one thing that would have got me hooked into church is if at that age, whoever was in charge, if they just talked to the individual and treated that person like they belong. You belong here. And let's have a conversation. And let me tell you about this organization. I am going to talk to each and every one of you that come in here Sunday and know you on a personal level. And then I'm going to figure out how to get this good word to each and every one of you versus preaching a blanket statement.
Right, generalities,
and
just
not
speaking.
Right, and not know any of you.
Yeah.
I don't care to know any of you. Where's the money and pass the Kool-Aid?
Yep.
God damn, it's hot up here. And so that's why I walked away from it. Now, when I really search about spirituality and religion and esoteric and mysticism, I find those really aren't the things that I'm looking for. The things I'm looking for are already instilled within me. And that's the experience of this and how I pilot this avatar and how I interact with people and how I can just take all that noise of what I thought was and should be and just end it. And then just look at people and go, this is how I feel. I want you to feel the same way I feel in this moment. I want you and I to have a peaceful conversation, a loving gathering, a talk about things that we shouldn't talk about, things that would normally get you crucified in the past. Let's explore our minds together. Let's get out of the confines of elementary and high school and college teachings. Because those are good teachings depending on what you want to learn, but it's still to build their shit. And it's not to build your shit. So let's build our own thing here. Let's forget about what we're taught. And let's meet on this higher level. We can all do that shit. We don't need words to know how everybody in this room feels right now. None of us. Because we can feel everybody right now. And we feel like we belong in this moment right here, right now. I don't need words to exchange that. I don't even need music to exchange that. And if there was one thing off in this room, somebody would be uncomfortable. And that's happened to me so many times. So that's why that was a big part of the message in the bottle. Was let me leave all my words and everything I've learned and everything I've done. I've lived it. Let me leave all that. I've done it. I don't have to explain it to anybody. I don't need notoriety for it because you've all felt me here. You're not conscious enough to know that I was here. And those that are conscious enough can feel one of us has just left. They didn't see it on the news. They didn't get a phone call. They felt it. When he had his near-death experience, he said he felt like a drop was pulled out of the ocean, and the entire ocean was like, did you feel that? A piece of us left. And for him to realize, like, oh my God, I just left the entire body of water. And that entire body of water isn't the same no more. It's not sitting how it used to sit. It doesn't have the same mass it had, And that one drop is a difference. So if somebody would have talked to me like that in church, well, I'd be in church.
Right. And now look at us now. Now we're just students of life.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, the organized religion piece is what you're pointing to, and you look at church services and everything going down around the country, attendance. But it's for, I think, the very reason that you're mentioning. Like I went to a lady who passed away that I was working on. I worked on her for like 6 to 8 months, and the way that she died was beautiful. She was dealing with cancer, but she came in to see me faithfully for like 6 months or 8 months. And when I would run energy with her, she would close her eyes and enter into this angelic beatific state, smile upon her face, grace, hands up, and I'm not forming like a religious piece or anything. I'm not telling her to believe in this or that. I'm just running energy with her, bringing her like the spiritual connection. She's coming to meditation. It's beautiful. And I felt like in that 8 months, I knew her soul. I knew her soul within a very short period of time. Her family was coming in, communicating how she changed after a month. She was like a different person. And I got to be like kind of like a death doula, like helping her to transcend and go down that path. And then when I went to her service for when she passed, they were reading out of, I don't use expletives often, but you guys have inspired me. They were reading out of a fucking cookbook. And they were just inserting her name like it was a Mad Lib. And I was sitting in the church attendance, and I hadn't really resolved a lot of the anger I was carrying at the time, but I was furious. Sitting there furious. Because it could have been anyone that they were speaking about. And yes, we are all the one. But there's a particular way that your snowflake is actually shaped and you move.
Right.
There's something particular that you bring to the world that I can acknowledge and love and appreciate. And I can individuate it from that perspective. I can say, Lamar brings this, Lamont brings this, Anna brings this, I'm bringing this. And there's not one that's better, but we're making music together.
Right.
And so, yes, if somebody leaves this room, I'm going to say, well, now we don't have the synthesizer.
Yeah.
Or now the bass is missing. Or this soft voice that's talking about angels and talking about the esoteric world and is receiving and everything, that's missing. Or the voice that's speaking right now is missing. And I can feel that drop missing in a sense until perhaps Spirit brings others into the space and we recreate this over and over again with a cycle. But it's that piece of saying, you matter, and you matter, and you matter. And I'm speaking to each of you, even though I'm speaking in a general term. When I'm talking about that lady that I was working on, I'm talking about you. Because I actually give a shit. I actually care enough to talk about her, to bring her into this space, which is bringing you into this space. So what she was showing me, and that whole experience showed me, was her deepest spiritual experiences that she was having, she was sharing with me, and I was honored to share it with her. And though she was actually being communicated through this church, and this is a church she attended, and I had appreciation for the church being there to kind of point a way for her to be seeking in the first place. What she found towards the end of her life was what she was seeking all along. And I know that when she died without any resistance. She just floated and went into that space. But the churches I belonged to when I was a child led me to agnosticism, led me to kind of this quasi-atheistic state in my 20s. Because I would go to where God was supposed to be. I was going to where my soul was supposed to call home. And no one was home. People were sleepy. In a space where we're spiritually active and God is supposed to be there, then when I open the door, it should be like horns blaring at me.
Right.
It should be something like where my hairs stand on my neck.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, I don't have to question. And this guy that's talking right now can shut up because the music is playing.
Mm-hmm.
And I can feel it course through me and remind me of what I am. And I think that's a feature of why people aren't going right now, because they're wanting, yes, the mystical, yes, the esoteric, but they're wanting what feels real, even beyond like all the other jargon we're using, even beyond holding our hands up and doing invoking. They're wanting what feels real. They want this authentic experience, not something that feels like they can't get in. You have to talk to the guy who knows the guy who knows the guy. Why can't I talk to the guy?
Right.
You know, you don't have connections. Sorry, this guy has connections.
I think that's where I was getting at too with the whole bringing up the why I wasn't never into religion is like I don't know to call on or what is it again? Archangel Michael. Like, because I don't know nothing of him. And he sounds like the fucking guy. And I would like
You
to
are
just
that.
go, and I get that, but it's like, I want a direct line to the guy if I had only known.
You got to talk to us first. So.
Yeah. I have to go through YouTube first. Gatekeepers. But that's a good point, you know?
How much do you make? Give me 15% of that.
Yeah.
And then maybe I'll put in a word.
Yeah.
Yeesh.
Just take it all at this point. You're not giving me much
Okay, that's
to myself, you know, just. I want to talk straight to the guy. I'm glad you said that. I want a direct flight. Fucking, I don't even want a first class flight. I want coach. Fuck it. I'll sit with everybody else and I'll just wait. And as the rows exit, I want to, at the end of it, I want to talk to the guy.
yeah.
Before we get out of here, because I know we're probably running a little long, but before we get out of here, for you two, let's just say God is of that it can take form of anything it wants, and it chooses to take form of a human figure just to make you comfortable with the image. What's the first question you ask? If you have a question for the
I thought you were going to ask what form.
for the God, and it's in the form of for humor's sake, this God takes the form of a sloth, and it's hanging in a tree, and it tells you,
It's adorable.
Yeah.
I am God.
Yeah.
All my sleepy little ways right now, I created everything.
Yeah.
You have a question for me. I do know it, but I want you to ask this question. What's your question?
I have one.
Yeah.
If you're
go
still
for it.
thinking. The question I can never answer for myself is why. Like, why would we come from all that is and move into something fractalized or fractured or differentiated? To have that experience, right, is usually the answer that people give, but I don't, the dance and the breath, I understand, the in and the out, you know, of this universal dance. But I think why would be my question.
I could probably answer a portion of that, but you're right. It'll be
Please
for the
do, God.
It'll be the experience of it, right? This is just
Yeah.
my narrative from what I experienced.
Were you a sloth the entire time?
I listen to me. I am speaking now, son. Just
Okay.
when I had my near-death experience, right, and I'm in the realization that I'm in that space on the other side, I was accountable to my higher self, and my higher self was saying, you were supposed to go down there and do that. You told us you wanted to go down there and do that. You said you wanted to do this, this, and that, and you're not doing it. You're not doing what you want to do. And I would look back at what I would thought was the voice and say, well, I didn't know. You know, I obviously forgot. You give me some fucking instructions. I will go down and do what I'm supposed to do. Like, I felt accountable, whether it was God or my higher self. I really feel like it was my higher self. It was me talking to me, trying to get me back in line with what I really needed to do. And when I get into this tunnel and I'm headed off to this world, I'm being downloaded all this information, and it's telling me I have my life purpose, my life goal. I wasn't able to bring any of that back. It was totally erased all of it. But I know that I was getting that from it, because I was going, oh yeah, oh yeah. I was saying things like that. This was tailored to me and my beliefs. Like, I know the universe tailored this to make me comfortable, but it also gave me a lot of insight, like that I wasn't ready to leave yet. When I got to the threshold of crossing over, it literally expressed, not words, but told me, if you go this far, I can't bring you back. Now it's not your time, you have to go back. And so it sent me back. But that was the answer that I got, was I chose to do this. Whatever the other side held for us, or who I was there, which I have no memory of, it's the guy at the carnival. Step right up.
Yeah.
You want this experience? Go get it. You're not going to get this in the loving realm of heaven or the love of the all. I can't provide that for you there, but I know this hell of a VR game that you're going to love called Earth.
Right.
What if it's just like an arcade somewhere and we're like just plugged in like the Matrix? I mean, that's the holographic universe theory, and there's other ideas that go along those lines. But what if it is just like you put in too many quarters in the machine and it spit out this VR simulation?
Well, if there are infinite universes, then one universe has to be that.
Yeah, and there's one where we're all sitting here and we're sloths
There you go.
with microphones.
With microphones.
Yeah, I always
love
like the idea of, with what you asked, I always loved the idea poetically of one of the greatest feelings, if not, well, I'm not going to say one of the greatest feelings, the greatest feeling we experience in this life is love. Every time we touch love in any form, we come back to it. And it becomes like a fire that we want to put more logs on and burn more brightly. So I always think poetically, if we come in remembering and forgetting, it's like we're falling in and out of love over and over again until we cease falling out of love. And that's kind of the game we're playing at, is to fall in love, which is to fall in union, and to fall so deeply that we never forget. And that's the spiritual game. It's just falling deep into the depths of love. I don't have a question. And it's not that I'm not still asking questions, but I feel like any question I would ask, I know what part of me would be asking. I know why it would be asking that question. And I don't know that it would satisfy that part of myself to have that question answered. But I feel like so many questions have already been answered that I feel satisfied with where I'm at.
That's a good spot to be, though.
Yeah. I mean, the one that came to mind, which is probably just beneficial to anyone who's still hanging on listening to us 5 hours into the podcast. God bless your soul, Marilyn. But it would be what do I retain? When I'm transcending, what am I retaining? Am I putting everything in a little bureau, and I'm taking these experiences, and when I go on to the next life, if I'm reincarnating, am I carrying some level of dexterity or some level of capacity that I've brought into this life? Because I've had people say to me before, "Oh, you're an old soul and you're very wise," or something along those lines. Not when I cut them off in traffic. They say I'm a young soul and I don't know what I'm doing. But it just depends on who you're interacting with. But in that vein, are we amassing consciousness? Are we building towards the point where we become one with an archangel or one of the light rays? Do we eventuate in the structure of all that is, and we can become the all-seeing eye? Does it break down like the yugas within Buddhism in cycles? I guess I just asked many questions.
Yeah.
And the sloth is like,
For a man with
I'm
no
slow.
questions.
I'm slow.
Yeah,
Like, I don't have. You're gonna be here a while.
The sloth is thinking, for a man with no questions, you have given me plenty.
Yeah.
And you have, in turn, answered a lot of them.
They're fast swimmers, though. So I could see that sloth going, he's still talking. I'm gonna swim because I took the wrong form. Should have been a cheetah.
Yeah, you gotta be quick nowadays. I don't know. That's just some good food for thought. What do you got? What's your question?
I wouldn't have a question. I would just, here's my response. Huh.
So you would challenge God? You'd be like, is that all you got?
Yeah.
I'm not impressed.
I don't know if that's a challenge more than a, like, good game. Or just,
Yeah.
I approve.
Yeah.
Whatever it is.
Yeah.
I don't need to know anything.
Yeah.
I'm living it. I lived it. I've got everything I need. It's just like saying, like, if I have a question, there's no question. I'm in it. This is it.
Yeah.
Fascinating. Couldn't have done it better myself. That's what that is.
I have one question, because I'm always curious about it, is who created you? And then in turn, it's like the Russian doll.
Sure.
Is it infinite?
The infinite regression model, where you have, But that doesn't work because it requires
A starting point, or like
a separate space and time,
yeah.
something out of the now moment. It requires a past.
So what created, like that's one of the biggest questions. What created the universe? God. What created that? And then what created that? And then what created? Where
Yeah.
did it all come from? What was the starting point? What sparked it? What is the all? Like, how did all of this start? What gave birth to what? Really think about that.
Yeah. I do sometimes. I like that feeling in my brain.
It's so deep, right? It's so deep and so blank. I can't even conjure.
Yeah.
My imagination, which is the worst thing that possibly that can be known to a man, is a person's imagination. It's so vicious.
Yeah.
It's way, way worse than reality. I cannot imagine what made the universe and what made it and where does it all come from. Like, I have no source of information to extrapolate from to go, this is the starting point. Let me just work this narrative. You have nothing.
Yeah.
Nothing.
Well, our question is the same. 'Cause
Yeah.
It is the in and the out breath. You know what?
And it's only, what we're talking about here is only derived on Earth, right? Planet, as we spoke before, Uktu Aktu, they have a whole different system than what we
Right.
can even imagine what their system is about.
Right.
Yeah.
And they're like, what is the meaning of this? Where did it come from? And then we just have no fucking clue. We're on a small marble in the Sahara Desert,
Yeah.
Yeah.
and we're just colliding into shit with no rhyme or reason. And we have zero clue. At the end of the day, we have zero fucking clue. We like to guess and put it out there, but I don't even know what truly happens when you die. I just got the precursors. I was never allowed in to the place, you know? I just know what it's like to get there, but I imagine once you're there, all your answers are probably waiting for you.
You know who I feel bad for? Are the people who don't even take the opportunity to have conversations like this, who are going to live a life, a lie, the entire way to the grave. A person that was like raised with hate or born into like a clan based on hate or an organization based on hate. Look at how much it is going to fog their mind. They're not even going to have one profound thought in an intellectual conversation to even contemplate such an idea. They don't even get that opportunity simply because somebody's voice was so powerful. It just overrid the entire mainframe of that avatar to shut it down, to not notice anything around, to not smile, to hate so much that you don't want to taste different ethnic foods and edibles and talk to someone that doesn't look like you. That's a powerful witchcraft.
But that would go back to the polarities, though, like of that purpose. If we're still basing on that, it'll be that person's life choice, right? It'll be what he was in the grocery store picking his life lessons.
Their experience.
Their experience. I want the hate. I want this in my shopping cart. I'm going to check out, and that's what I'm going to go down to earth and experience. I need this for my level up.
Hi.
Yeah.
Yeah. The features that like I take solace in are the idea that what we are tapped into and connected to doesn't have to be a direct model to what we're living here. Like this corporeal God that existed, or this grand architect. It's like a mastermind. But that it can be like the creative expression of the universe. The universe meaning one song. That is like this vibration that's creating this, almost like kind of how your mind can conjure thoughts. And that it doesn't have to necessarily come from a material realm, but it can actually birth material. This is not a scientific thought or understanding, but I personally believe that material can come from nothing. That this, whether it's dark matter, whether it's dark energy, or whether it's, the world of the formless, is bringing into existence this whole experience we call life. And that, it gets rid of this Judeo-Christian idea of God as being like this angry, curmudgeonly guy that doesn't have any means to groom himself, so the hair just kind of grows long, and he sends people down to
hell. Yeah.
essentially.
What happens to that Hitler soul? That soul that comes down and says, you know what? Like the guy he was talking about, the hate. You come down, you take the life of Hitler. What do we perceive happens to that soul?
Well, okay, I'll speak from a different perspective. Like the law of one with the Raw series talks about us all reaching a unity point, and that someone like a Hitler would be maybe a fourth dimensional, but polarized towards separation, polarized towards what you might call like evil or separation. But you can only go so far with that, and then you have to go and ascend and bring all of the dimensions online, including the heart center. So you can become very powerful in that polarity, but you can only go so far, and then you have to go back. And so I think his name was Akesoff Bentoff or something along those lines. It's kind of a fun name, but he had spoken about, because he was a mystic, and he was also a scientist. He died the year I was born, 79, but I was listening to an interview, and he said, essentially, something we keep coming back to, whether you know it or not, whether you're aware of it or not, we're all going there, wherever there is. And whatever life you've lived, you're going back to that pool of consciousness, back to that union point. So you can polarize in this direction, and you can learn the lessons, and you can only go so far before you have to come back around.
Right.
And I was talking to, I was doing a podcast the other day where we were talking about entities, dark spirits and things along those lines. And the gentleman I was talking to was saying, about embodying and connecting within space, but I worked in that realm for a little period of time. And what I found was I can transcend anything I would face by moving into the heart space and bringing everything into love and light. And that's the principle why I'm still living by. And while I have not gone all the way like what you're describing to know exactly what's behind the veil, I've gone so deep into love and light that I don't care.
That's all I got from my experience. It was all about love. It was all based on love.
Yeah.
When my higher self or whatever it was put that loving blanket around me, and just when I felt all that love, like all this love for me, like this is a lot.
Yeah.
Like we say we love each other here, but the love I got there, it doesn't hold a candle.
Without precondition.
Yeah, it's
just
unconditional.
There. Yeah, just there.
It doesn't matter what you've done or what you thought you have done. It was just waiting for you.
Yeah.
And it just comforted me and told me, you can stop holding on to that earth shit, son. You're home.
You're going to be okay.
Yeah.
It'll be okay.
God.
Full circle.
See, you
That's
see
beautiful.
here,
That's the
Jesus.
You answered your own question. You are my guru. This is wonderful.
Hey, well, if you guys are still tuned in and tapped in and turned on by all this lovely conversation, like Ben said, good on you. We are going to get the hell out of here. Always, at the beginning of the show, you heard what we have in mind with the music, with Ben speaking. That's going to be the goal. We're glad that Why You Are You showed up. Check out their channel. Ben, you want to give out the...
Yeah, so the website is, this is letter YURU.com, and then the YouTube page is Buru, letter Y, letter U, letter R, letter U. And thank you for connecting in with us and sharing this space.
Okay, but you have to end it like you end your show. I'm not going to take it.
Awesome. And this is why you
Are you?